Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Is this right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. So, Salãmun Alaykum, everyone. So, Masha Allah, we're here again for another Quran study. Surah 28, sorry, 22, verse number 38. So, as always, like to start with saying that, yeah, 479, anything that good we do here is a blessing of God. Any mistakes I make on this Quran study is mine, and I seek forgiveness from God to God for my mistakes. Auzubillahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. I seek refuge in God from Satan the rejected. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. Verse 22:38. So the heading says, God defends the believers. And the verse says, God defends those who believe. God does not love any betrayer, unappreciative. And there's so much we can talk about this verse. It actually follows through the verses from the beginning of the surah, where God talks about the hell, and then God is warning us what a horrible day is coming. And 22:15, where God says, if it's an open challenge to anyone who see God, God will defend them. And this is like sort of a heading for the whole, you can say, chapter for the surah. That God defends those who believe. So if you believe in God, you know God will be your defender, and whoever has God as their defender, I mean, you can imagine this person has nothing to worry whatsoever in this world and the hereafter. And and the interesting thing is, the comparing these two in this verse is believe, and the second part, God does not love any betrayer, unappreciative. So you can see that God didn't say God does not love any unbeliever. Instead, God used betrayer and unappreciative. And we can see that one of the definition of a disbeliever is who betrayer and as an unappreciative. And it's interesting, if somebody is unappreciative uh, of anything in their life, and you can imagine that you're getting into the wrong territory, because you will not be loved by God. um, and betray who, basically God. You disobey God. We took an oath, as we know in Surah 7, that and we told God, and I'm paraphrasing, that you alone our Lord. And if you walk away from your oath, and then that's called as a betrayer. It's any agreement you take. You have a contract, and then when you violate the contract, you are a betrayer. These are this pretty much the kind of heading for the whole chapter. And let's go to the and here's some some of the qualities of a believer. A believer is appreciative, loyal, faithful. An example of a disbeliever is like Satan. uh, and if you follow Satan, he's going to make you unappreciative, he's going to make you bitter, and would inflict you with a disease if you disbelieve in God. And there are only two choices that you can make. And the next subheading is synagogues, churches, and masjid. So God says in 22:39, permission is granted to those who are being persecuted, since injustice has befallen them, and God is certainly able to support them. So God is giving automatic permission for somebody who has been evicted from their home, because God is going to talk about in the next verse why. I mean, who are those people? So let's go read that verse and then come back here. Verse number 40. They were evicted from their homes unjustly, for no reason other than saying, our Lord is God. If it were not for God's supporting of some people against others, monasteries, churches, synagogues, and masjids, were, where the name of God is commemorated frequently, would have been destroyed. Absolutely, God supports those who support Him. God is powerful, almighty. So these people are when you're talking about God alone in your community, and they know that, you can get all sort of different reaction. Some people will be like, just don't care. Some people will be like, good for you, and then just say we are, and they will say you're happy what we are. They will have no hate towards you. They will still love you. And then there are those people who will hate you inside, and you can sense that, and that they hate your action. They will ignore you, and they will say verbal things behind your back, maybe sometime in front of you, and sometimes some of them will threaten you, that things like that. But some will take actual action against you to hurt you in any ways. If they have power, they can evict you from your home, and they will do that. So God is giving permission here. Says permission is granted to those who are being persecuted. So, and then God is telling, who are these people? They are evicted from their homes unjustly. So any kind of those action that's taken against you, uh, and as we read the verse before, God defends the believer. So, but if you believe in God and you support, and you're supporting God, God will support you, and you don't have to worry about all this whatever they're doing. But you have permission in your power to stand up for your rights. You cannot let them uh, hurt you in any way. If you have power to do it, if you are weak, you cannot do anything. Basically, uh, God gives you permission to migrate. You cannot just sit there and be. They will stop you from praying, and they hurt you in any way. You don't have to take that. You support up for your stand up for your rights, and certainly you don't love these people. God says on some other verses that who fight you in the cause of God. God does not want you to be friend with them and loving them, things like that. But then God says, if it were not for God's supporting of some people against others, and all these worship places that God has mentioned here, where God's name is commemorated frequently, and I was just trying to figure out the understanding of these. I mean, possibly one of the definition I was thinking was that these people are God-loving people. They worship God alone, and so wherever they are in these four different, like it's written here, masjids, synagogues, churches, and monasteries, these are like could be Christians or anyone, and if they are occupying these places, um, God will certainly protect them. They will not be able to hurt you. And another definition that I think is that even any religion, you say, regardless of they're doing idol worship, but in their churches, in their worship places, God is mentioned. They mention God, commemorate God frequently, and that's probably one of the reason. Even though they are doing idol worship, but God is commemorated, so God is, uh, you know, God says here, would have been destroyed. So it's like God is protecting uh, these places too at the same time. Then the verse number 41, there are those who, if we appoint them as ruler on earth, they would establish the contact prayer, salat, and obligatory charity, zakat, and would advocate righteousness and forbid evil. God is the ultimate ruler. So these are the qualities of the believers, that they don't do any wrong. Their number one thing is they establish the contact prayer, and then obligatory charity, and they will advocate righteousness. This is the God is talking about since we're on the same chapter, believers, and you have to advocate righteousness if in your power, and forbid evil. If you see something wrong is going on, if you have the power to speak, you should speak. You cannot just let that happen. If you have power to stop it, you should stop it, any evil that's going on. And the mother of all evil is the idol worship. If you see idol worship going on, and it becomes a sort of duty that, if you think you can do something about it, advocate righteousness, then we should worship God alone, invite people to, and that's the reason that when you do these things, and when you go back to the previous verses, then evicted from their homes, because these things will happen in the result of this. So these are the people that have permission to do take action. So this is all a whole setup. If you look at in this window, that when you follow this, you will actions will be taken against you, and then you have permission to take certain actions, but you can never go above, if all you do is just in your self-defense. You have the right to, God has given you the permission to do it. But these are the people that God is saying who are have the permission, who are these are believers. God defends them. They have nothing to worry, and they establish contact prayer when they're ruler. They are give obligate charity and righteous, advocate righteousness and forbid evil. God is the ultimate ruler, and that's what you need to trust, that God is ultimate ruler, and they have nothing to worry about in that sense. Uh, so let's see here. So verse 22-42. If they reject you, people of Noah, Ad, Samud have been disbelieved before them, have also been disbelieved. Also the people of Abraham and the people of Lot and the dwellers of Midian, Moses was rejected. I led all these people on. Then I called them to account. How devastating was my requital. So this is a very complete system. Then you follow this system, and then when you tell people this is basically in this Quran study too, we're what we're doing is we are telling other people, broadcasting, to inviting people to worship God alone. This is the right path, and certainly people will mock you and all those things happen. And so God is telling you, don't feel bad. If there is some very very honorable person who was made fun of, and you doing the same thing, and the people say, look at that person, he was such an honorable person and he had done so much. So don't worry about it. If this thing is happening to you, don't feel bad. Look at here, Noah, some also been disbelieved. Abraham, Lot, Moses. God is giving us example of these noble people that they've been rejected. So don't feel bad. This is the God system. And here I just wrote a little paragraph. This is God's system. So if people make fun of you believing in God alone, they can never hurt you. God is defending you, as was the subheading. They are only hurting themselves. God lead them on for a specific time. This is like a warning for them. Maybe some people may take heed or change or learn from others who give hard time to the believers and what happened to them. This is God's system. Basically, is just a little summary I wrote in here. So one thing I want to clear is that what I wrote here is these are just like when you have your paper on the paper Quran, and you make little notes. So I'm making the notes on the word processor. So these are not the footnotes. These are just some definitions that when you highlight in the Quran and then write notes or something like that. These are just my highlights. So don't take them as anything like other than it's footnotes or something. Messenger Covenant has put footnotes in it. These are the footnotes, but these are just for explaining the verses. I put notes in there. And then God says in next verse 45, many a community have been annihilated because of their wickedness. They end up with ruins, still wells, and great empty mansions. Did they not roam the earth, then use their minds to understand and use their ears to hear? Indeed, the real blindness is not the blindness of the eyes, but the blindness of the heart inside their chest. Same message, God is in different ways explaining over and over. So when you're doing all these things against the believers, God is telling them, don't you go out there. What happens when you disbelieve and you become wicked? What's a wickedness? There's some definitions that when they take actions against um, uh, believers, and we will learn more in coming verses. The wickedness is not only that they are uh, they're striving in the opposite direction of uh, saying about God's revelations and denying them. These are also called wicked people, and God is telling them, don't you go out there and look around and see what happened to those people. Maybe you take heed. But if you don't take heed, it's like not the being blind from the eyes. They can still see it. It's the blindness of the chest, and we can very much understand what God means in that. That blindness of eye is nothing. It's when you blind from the truth. That's what is that's going to hurt you. Um, Here's the verse that from Surah number 18, and I'm just going to read a little bit here that just or give you some little bit definition on that. That this is the person has given two gardens. So when his crops were, God wiped him out, and so what does he say? Here's something very interesting. He says he finally said, "I wish I never set up my property as God beside my God, my Lord." So and then God's no force would have helped him. So this guy, he was wicked. He was being his own his what you call that, ego, and he's setting his property as God. But when this happened to him, he learned. At least he said he finally said, "I wish I never set up." So I don't know what happened to him, but at least in this world he realized that's what God wants us to do. Even though we make mistakes, so when you make mistake, you see the results. You're not going to repeat the same mistakes again in your workplaces, in the world. You learn something, you made a mistake, you're not going to do the same mistake again. You burn your finger for the first time accidentally. Sometime will happen, you touch something hard, but you know the fire is hard, you're not going to put your hand in there. So this is God is teaching us, when you deny God and some terrible things happens in your life, why don't you take heed? When you are really really sick and you really implore God, and when God makes you well, take heed from this, that change your life. But if you go back to your routine, God only going to give you so much time before God uh, retribution comes to you. Verse number 47, they challenge you to bring retribution, and God never fails to fulfill his prophecy. A day of your Lord is like 1,000 of your years. So God is saying that don't worry about the time in this world is very irrelevant to God. Uh, Sometimes we think that many times we see some people are causing. I think there's a lot of sound. Sometimes we see a lot of people causing corruption in the world, and then when we see why God, why they keep doing it, it's because it's God's system. God is letting them go on into a certain time, but it doesn't matter. The life in this world is so short that God is explaining here. A day of your Lord is 1,000 of your years. As we know that the night of destiny is more than 1,000 months. Here, 1,000 of your years. It's 12 times more than even the night of destiny compared to what a day in God's system is. And if you look at here, time is running at a different speed in God's kingdom. God, and this is one of the quality of God, that God can run in one world in a different system, and God is running time in a different. As we know, in the computer age, sometimes you do multitasking, and when you're playing a game or something, you can run the game at 10x or 12x. So you're watching the video, you can run it 2x. So this is God's system. And here I have just did a little math here, I mean in detail, but if the thing is here, like one day versus 1,000 year on earth, right? In 1,000 years, in every 25 or 20 years, a person grows up and gets married. So in 100 years, roughly, you can say maybe 4 generation has been passed. In 1,000 years, 40 generations have been passed in 1,000 years. So look here, only one day is passes in God's kingdom, and this is just allegorically. God is giving us a rough idea that whatever happens in this world for God is just a blink of an eye. And here in the earth is 40 generations have grown and gone from this world. Just imagine that. And here there's just a little math I did, is 1 second. So it's one day is 1,000 years. 1 second of God's is equal to 100 hours in earth. How fast is a second? And 100 hours is passed by. It's like 4 days. And you can see this earth is, if you can probably imagine from above heaven, you probably will see the earth spinning is like a motor around the earth. You see those model homes, model solar systems, and they run at such a high speed around the sun, and the earth is spinning like a motor. This is probably what you're going to see from above space, and this is how fast the time is passing on earth. And I'll just pause here if you want to see this, still little calculations and multiplying with hours and minutes and seconds, and so just to uh, so then next verse, God says, many a community in the past committed evil, and I led them on for a while. I and then I punished them to me is the ultimate destiny. So this is God's system. People commit evil. For God, it doesn't matter. Time is not an issue for God. It's just God has running this world at X times speed. So they will do something. For God is just clicking, just like we clicking on the mouse. Go ahead, do it. For God, time is not an issue. And God led them for a while. Then God punished them. Maybe some of those people may take heed. You see people doing idol worship, and God let them do it. God says some place that the heavens and sky, the fear of thunder, because what they're seeing being idol worship going on earth. But God is letting this happen. This earth is giving house to all these people who was doing idol worship. If it was earth's choice, it would just throw us off. But earth is following God's command, letting us have a life on earth, and do things. Earth is just obeying God. But if it's for up to them, just like angels, they would put us in hell. But God, it's God's mercy that God is giving us chance that maybe we take heed. And God has given us all the revelations and the warning. It's up to us to. So next verse says, its heading is God's messenger of the covenant. So 49, say, "O people, I have been sent to you as a profound warner." So there's a footnote says, this command is directed specifically to God's messenger of the covenant. This fact and the specific name of the messenger are mathematically coded into the Quran. See the detail together with irrefutable proofs in Appendix 2 and 26. So if you have the Final Testament, the authorized version of the Quran, and you go read the Appendix 2 and 26, and see all the miracle of 19 and everything, and these all directs to that this is God is talking about. And a lot of people will object to this. They will say this is not about God is talking about prophet. But here God is clear. I mean, here we learn clearly with the mathematical proof that God is talking about the messenger of the covenant, and God has sent us as a profound warner, because 1400 years people have been disobeying God in Islam, and in the name of adding names in the prayers and in the masajids, and where God says the masajid is only devoted to God alone. Don't mention anybody else's name. And these are written clearly in the Quran, but people have been violating. So God has, it's the mercy. God has sent another messenger. God did not have to send another messenger. God has done His job when Prophet Muhammad came. This was a mercy. But God, is this the mercy? God sent another messenger to 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 make the purify the religion, and but the people are still um, people are still sending. God is still sending another messenger to that we take heed. And this is all about belief. You believe in the miracle. You believe one lead to another. But if you somewhere you say, I don't believe this. I don't believe this is person's messenger. So this is sort of, then you drop out. This is God's system. God will give you miracle. God will test you, that whether you believe it or not. So, and then this is a little verse that I wrote here from Surah 39:23. This is the subheading is the best hadith. God has revealed here in the best hadith, a book that is consistent points out both ways to heaven and hell. The skins of those who reverence their Lord cringe therefrom. Then their skins and their hearts soften up for God's message. Such is God's guidance. He bestowed upon whoever wills to be guided. As for those sent astray by God, nothing can guide them. So if you're a believer, as we're reading subheading, if you're a believer, God defends you. But the belief thing comes with a lot of, it's just not a lip service. You have to believe in everything that comes with it. It's some places you say, I don't believe in this and I don't believe in that. Then you're moving out of the belief, because belief has to be complete. Those who believe and lead a righteous, I mean, that's actually is my understanding. And I mean, you can tell me some things different, but to my understanding, when you believe in God, then whatever God says, you have to accept it. The messenger of the covenant, this is we have to accept it. Whatever he says, we have to accept it. If you stop believing, disbelieving. Oh, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. In my understanding, that we are not as a, maybe we are not 100% believer. Maybe you are 70% or we are less. But we should strive, because as we see, one day is 1,000 years. The time is passing very fast. In this world, does nothing even matters anymore. Whatever is happening in this world, it's just like when you have a disaster happening, some like tornado or something is coming. Nothing matters at that time. You are just running. You leave your property. You don't even worry about anything. Just runs. This world is like this chaotic place that you just, doesn't even matter. You look at it and you submit to God. Then God is going to defend you, because it's time going to pass by, just like a blink of an eye to God. One has done. Okay, so let's go to the next one. And this is, it says God has relieved the best hadith. The people defending hadith. God is saying God has revealed the best hadith. To follow this hadith, what God has. And you know what, when this is follow, obey God and obey the messenger, there are roughly 321 times God is telling the messenger to say, to do, to say, cool, say that, say. So God, when God says obey messenger, then you go in the Quran where God is saying to the messenger, say to these people, say to these people. That's what the hadith is. So that's why you follow the messenger, because God is telling the messenger, and messenger is telling us, and then God is saying, oh, listen to him. That's pretty much it. But these people, they bring out all this extra stuff. They said this is also uh, prophet said, but which is completely the other way around. And it's a very, if you look at it, this is a very good understanding, mashallah. Then the verse number 50, those who believe and lead a righteous life have deserved forgiveness and generous recompense. So if you believe, again, the word believe, and lead a righteous life, believe me, this world is just a blink of an eye. The days passing so fast. And we have here Christmas time again, and I just can't even remember. We just had the lights. We went to see the lights last year, and every year is passing by like like uh, there's no tomorrow something. uh, Whatever you do in this world for your house, for your daily living, is irrelevant completely. And we will see some more verses. For God is giving us a warning. Verse 51, as for those who strive to challenge our revelation, they incur hell. See here, there's God is talking, strive to challenge our revelations. Wow. I mean, well, who would strive? Some people, they just don't even care. They don't even believe anything. They say, "Oh, we don't believe in revelation," but they actually go out and they strive to challenge God. And what is the number one challenge? They say God says in the Quran is complete and fully detailed. When you say these three words, complete, fully detailed, it's like giving somebody not just an address, then you give fully detailed. You give extra details that the person will never get lost. Everything is included in that address, not just the name and the street and the city, but everything is included in that address. It's like, and if somebody would say, well, what about this is not in there, it's telling the person that, oh, your message is not complete. So this is God is saying that fully detailed and complete. And then what is the number one objection we get? Where's the salat in the Quran? So you're directly objecting, you're striving in the challenging the revelation of God, that God, you say that your book is complete, but look, where is the salat? It's not in there. So you're challenging basically God. God could have put the whole salat in the Quran in detail, just like God says about the fasting. God has given us a complete. God gave us the wudu in detail. So why God did not put it? One of the reason comes to mind is this is the test. You read something when God says it's complete, fully detailed, but you objected with something that in, you've been taught and stuff like that, so that you objecting God's revelation. So this is the test for everyone, whether they're sincere, they're with God or not. For us, it should be complete. We should not even question about something like that. What about this? We should know the Quran is fully complete and detailed, and we have to take it like that. And let's go to the next one. And think about it. Think about it. Here's the thing: you defend so much the other books. Here, there are 10 books of hadiths, four for Shia, 6 for Sunni, and most of them, one does not matches with the other one. So tell me, please, Tell me, how can I even follow all these books? Because if I follow one, I'm breaking the second one. If I follow the second one, I'm not only breaking the first one, I'm breaking the third one. Logically think about it. In your calm mind, think about how are you gonna, okay, let's take the six Sunni Hadith books. How are you gonna follow them? They don't match with each other. You're gonna be breaking the commandments one right or left. And there's not a single book that has a complete salat in there. It's all over the place. And then there's 10 ways to do one thing, 10, 20 ways to do something else. How are you going to follow all this? Is it a logical mind would think that you cannot follow it? If you're like going studying math, and they're like one big university has published a genuine math book, and there's 10 people have made their own book which have the formulas where they have different formulas. How are you going to calculate? Tell me. You're going to multiply, or any calculus formula. One says different way, the other one says different way. How are you going to follow it? How are you going to even defend something that they don't even match with each other? It's just a humble thought for you, for me to just think about it, that verse 52. And don't get upset about that, but this is what it is. It's come down to the true reality. And if still this you don't still don't believe it, then God, the warning is all over the Quran. Verse 52: we did not send before you any messengers nor a prophet without having the devil interfere in his wishes. God then nullifies what the devil has done. God perfects his revelation. God is omniscient, most wise. So this is the God system, and I don't even have to talk about this verse. It's just pretty much straightforward. But let's just read the footnote, and footnote is just awesome to read. The explain, and footnote says, throughout the worldly test, Satan is allowed to present his point of view. We are born with the representative of Satan in our bodies. This allows the people to make a choice between God's evidence and Satan's evidence. Satan's evidence is invariable based on lies. This system explains the fact that the devil's agents continuously come up with the most absurd lies, insults, and accusation against every messenger. And these are the verses you can see here. Read them, and there are more explanations on that. So the whole purpose of coming to this world is have a positive message and a negative message. If all this negative message was not there, and we come to this world and everybody's worshiping God alone, and there's not a single negativity in this world, and where is the test? Imagine you go to school and then you open the multiple choice questions and you read a question and there's only one answer, and you just mark it, and do you think that test any has any value in it? Everybody will have, there was no choice. But God has put all these things. Each religion and prophet comes in. God is, it says the verse here, sends you before a messenger and prophet without devil interferes. So God has allowed that for specific reason, for the person who has knowledge, they can come out and study it and make a decision, wise decision. That's when the test becomes valid. If there's no if you go to multiple choice question and all four answers are same, there's no test. So this world is like a multiple choice question test. So you read four answers and you eliminate the wrong ones with your common sense, and then you pick the right answer. That's where, and the book is here, so you can read the book and look for, it's open book test basically. The hypocrites drop out. This is where the whole system is just beautifully designed by God, and God is explaining here how they drop out. He thus sets up devil's scheme as a test for those who harbor doubts in their hearts, and those whose hearts are hardened. The wicked must remain with opposition. Wow. I mean, this clearly explains the whole purpose of this world. That if you have doubts harbor in your heart in any way about God, and this is God's scheme, God's system, that this is like a test for us. A test for those who harbor doubts in their hearts, and those whose hearts are hardened. They become so hard. I mean, and there are verses in the Quran. God says about examples of hard. They become stone, and the stone. I mean, stone. Even God says they have, some have soft, and some have water comes out. But human heart becomes so hard. that it's just there's not a thing to explain the example. And God is saying the opposition to God, and wicked is not welcome in God's party. You are in opposition party. In opposition parties, and we know this is devil's party. And the next verse, those who are blessed with knowledge will recognize the truth from your Lord, then believe in it, and their hearts will readily accept it. Most assuredly, God guides the believers in the right path. So basically, that's what it comes down to. You look around and you see, you analyze all the evidence and in whatever information that you have, and you use knowledge, and you will recognize your Lord, and believe in it, then believe in it, and their hearts will readily accept it. And these will, God says, most assuredly. God didn't say that God guides believers in the right path. God doesn't have to say most assuredly, but God strengthens His sentences, that with words like adjectives that so we make it more. So we believe it. God doesn't have to use this. So God said, most surely, if you believe, God will guide you right path. That's all you need. You just believe in God's revelations, basically. And if you have objection to any revelation in the Quran, you are walking in a very very hot water. So right there, verse 55. And you would ever even take a risk of that? Then you say, okay, maybe it's just a one verse, but this world is going to go past so fast. Would you want to take a risk about anything? The next one, God says, as for those who disbelieve, they will continue to harbor doubts until the hour comes to them suddenly, or until the retribution of the terrible day comes to them. And this is what can happen if you disbelieve. You never know, and you continue to harbor doubts. You never know when the day, your hour comes to pass. And the retribution, it doesn't, I was trying to understand why God says our retribution, and we had a similar study before, but it doesn't even matter. I mean, if you disbelieve, whether it comes, which way it comes, or whatever, it's just bad. It's like two events that's going to happen. Like this, there's going to be tornado, and then there's going to be a giant earthquake, and the people are talking, tornado is going to come first, or earthquake is going to come first. It doesn't even matter. These are two horrible things going to happen. Which way ever it comes, it doesn't matter. You need to just run away from it. That's all. We can discuss about it, but it's irrelevant to even say what does it mean and what doesn't mean. It's just horrible, basically. And if you want to read, you can go many many verses. God talks about allegorically what heaven, what hell is, what is the day of retribution is, what is the time of death, and all these things are. It's pretty. We just need to be working, striving towards God. And then here's, this is one of the reasons God has Satan's temporary kingship. All sovereignty on that day belongs to God, and He will judge among them. As for those who believe and lead a righteous life, they have deserved a garden of they have deserved a garden of bliss. So even if there's some two good events that are happening, gardens and paradise, and something too good is coming towards you, you will be just happy. You're not going to be judging, okay, which one I'm going to get first, but you'll be excited that you're going towards heaven. And this is the whole world. The reason the God created this world is also that Satan and God can prove that this world is not a piece of cake that you think you can run it. This is God has put Satan through in his test too. That, okay, go ahead, run the world. It's like a giant franchise with them. They have like 1,000 restaurants all over the world, and one person said, I can run it. And this company is giving that one restaurant to this person. Go ahead, run this restaurant. And even though the company is providing them with the food, all the electronics, computer software, the employee power, everything, this person just have to run it. And this person miserably failing it, running that restaurant. That's what it's similar to. This world is that God is providing the food and everything on this world, and He has sin just have to run it. And we can see is, as the population grows, is miserably failing. And these are, you can go, Messenger of Covenant has covered a lot about this system. Well, next verse is, while those who disbelieved and rejected revelation have incurred a shameful retribution. And inshallah, I will stop here in this the next heading, striving the cause of God. Verse 58, those who immigrate for the sake of God and get killed or die, God will surely shower them with good provisions. God is certainly the best provider. Most assuredly, He will admit them in an admittance that will please them. God is omniscient, clement. So here's just we started with the same heading, God defends the believer, and here's we end with God. If you believe in God, God will defend you no matter where you're going. You're striving in the cause of God, even though you die in the cause of God. This world is gonna pass by anyway in a second. It doesn't even matter. You know, maybe your test was short. You know, you got it done very quickly. When you go on the other side, you look back and you say, "Oh, my test was the easiest or shortest." Some people live a really long life, and their test may be even more harder. You know, so it doesn't even matter. You just believe in God and strive in the cause of God, and God will protect you in any way, any situation. And if God says, if even then they get killed or die, die on their own, it is, you're going to go back to God because you're a believer. Inshallah, stop here at verse 59, and we talk about any comments and questions. Inshallah. Thank you, guys. Thank you, God.
Masha Allah, Adam, you did a great job.
MashaAllah, praise God.
MashaAllah, Adam. Thanks. Great study, MashaAllah.
MashaAllah.
Adam, only one suggestion that you cannot be this detailed.
You don't leave any questions for anybody.
MashaAllah, praise God. This is what actually, see here. I was listening to somebody who's talking about this. I just learned this over too, that when they say in the Quran that obey the messenger, obey God, and obey the messenger, and this has been one of the important thing that every time we hear is in 321 times roughly this person was saying that God is telling the messenger, say to these people. So basically, this is where God is telling us to say, God is telling the messenger, and God is telling us obey the messenger what He's telling you, and this is basically coming from Quran, from God. And in many places you will see in Arabic word says kul. Kul means say. Like the four kul we have, kul, towards the end of the Quran. These are not the only four kuls. The Quran is full of kuls, and this is the Prophet is speaking to us, and so we have to listen in the Quran from the messenger. MashaAllah.
The
It's such a
Quran is
good
full
thing.
of cool.
COL.
Yeah, COL or KOL. Either, yeah. Or maybe QL. It's the kaf with the two dots. It's pronounced like Q, like Quran.
Where did it end? Sorry.
59.
Yeah.
I was sitting here like 11:30. I'm like, I don't think it's gonna happen today. Nobody's joining us. MashaAllah, God made it happen.
Yeah, well, can we talk about it to start in time, inshallah? I was,
Inshallah.
Can we
yeah,
talk about it afterwards, God willing?
yeah,
Inshallah.
inshallah.
Anybody has comments or questions about the verses we read? mean, it's really interesting verses, Masha.
Just a quick question. The system. Auzubillahi minash-shaytanir-rajim. Bismillah. So we did not send before you any messenger nor a prophet without having the devil interfere in his wishes. And this God then nullifies what the devil has done. What exactly means by that? God then nullifies what the devil has done. Can you just clarify that one?
Right. So I think one thing you can see, for example, I mean, I think Mashallah, Adam gave the example of the Hadith books, for example, right? So they did that with Muhammad's, right? When Muhammad passed away, they created all these books, and then it's nullified now because now we have, so God has sent another messenger, and we have the purified message, and so all his work that he put in place to mislead the people has been nullified in the sense that now God has renewed the message and purified the message again, so and the believers and now have access to the purified religion and the truth again.
MashaAllah, thank you.
Also, there are many examples in the Quran as well as um, throughout the history. We see that the devil will try its best to either, for example, in case of Joseph, um, the devil tried to, make him look like a bad person by inspiring that woman, governor's wife, and the whole thing started with the falsehood, wrong accusations. He went to jail and everything. So obviously, all bad comes from Satan, and whatever was happening was part of a test, and he had to be. So at the end, God perfects whatever the scheme of devil gets nullified. He thinks he has won, he has done all this damage and whatnot. And the same thing with um, Job, Jonah, all these, the tests become also part of that, right? And they try to stop the message by doing so many things, the devil. But at the end, God allows it because it is still part of the in the grand scheme, is part of the test, or something has to come out of it. And at the end, the truth wins, and falsehood is just falsehood. I believe so.
Anyone has any comments on 2252? Well, I have a comment actually, if nobody else has a comment.
Yes, Salma, nobody have a lovely comment yet, so you can
Lovely
go ahead.
comment. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think this is very important verse because it says that, it's not referring to just one messenger. It says any messenger nor a prophet, without having the devil interfere in his wishes. So this proves that anytime a messenger or a prophet comes, any prophet or any messenger, the devil will interfere in his wishes. And I mean, we see now. I mean, we already talked about how it happened with Muhammad, and we see how it happened with Abraham, and we see how this happened with uh, the messenger of the covenant as well, because the messenger of the covenant, for example, um, explained the duties of submission in very great detail and all the principles of submission. And we can see how his entire message is being distorted by Satan. You have people who are out there who claim to know the message of Rashad. There's different types of people, obviously, but we can see there's some people that were alive during the time of the messenger of the covenant that were supposedly close to him, and so they sort of use that to hijack proposition that they were with the messenger, to hijack the message and say things in his name, for example, that he said to them, for example, or he did, that are not proven from the Quran, like that they go against the Quran. And then you have other people that claim to point at sources besides the Quran to imply that the messenger of the covenant preached anything other than the Quran, and with the example, for example, with circumcision, or prohibiting Hajj and things like that, and these are all examples of how Satan has been trying to distort the message. Or you have examples of people, for example, who are looking at, let's say, the appendices and in the Quran that the Messenger of the Covenant has put, for example, where when he says that the Quran is complete, perfect, and fully detailed, and using that to trying to find loopholes and using it to prove that he said that the Quran is not complete, by saying that certain things will not have to be mentioned, or people looking at other information he left behind, for example, how Gog and Magog will reappear and people will be resurrected, and saying that and people will be resurrected like 10 years before the end of the world and things like that. So these are all examples, and we can see that this explains how a message comes, a messenger comes, the religion is purified. It's like a cycle, and then repeats. Satan's at it again. Trying to, but it's interesting to see how he does it. Like, he doesn't go around and try to corrupt it from the outside. It's very difficult for Satan to do that. So he uses this mechanism to destroy the message from within. Like, there will be people, and you can see that with the time of Muhammad, the time of Jesus, all of these that these were people that claimed to be adherents of this religion and claimed to follow the religion, and those were the ones who actually started destroying it and changing it, one thing at a time, until it became a satanic cult. And that's what history seems to be repeating itself, and I think that's what it says. It's actually part of God's system. So I mean, God's system never changes, right? And 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 the verse tells us that the hypocrites drop out. So this is actually a way, a mechanism that God has put in place to separate the true believers from the hypocrites, because the hypocrites will come across these things and get swayed by them and get trapped. you know it's just like, yeah, it's just really what it is. It's just a trap from Satan, to trap the hypocrites. And the true believers will not fall for these things. The true believers will recognize the truth and they'll adhere to the truth and follow the truth. But the hypocrites will automatically get attracted to these false ideologies and expose, what is in their hearts. This also is a verse that, is, I mean, when it says the hypocrites drop out, I think it's also a verse that I need to say that also is, well, greatly misunderstood by the hypocrites. because this is merely talking about the scheming that the devil sets up as a test in accordance with God's will. And people who adhere to these ideologies and innovations and lies that Satan promotes, inevitably fall for this. So they don't have to like physically drop out or leave a place or anything like that. Well, the moment people fall for these traps, the moment you say that the Quran is not complete, perfect, and fully detailed, you're a hypocrite that dropped out by doing so, by action. And that's what the verse is saying. Um, and 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 that's it. I think, yeah, that's what I wanted to add there.
Yeah, Masha Allah, Solomon. This is really basically the whole reason we are here in this world. Have you seen those videos on YouTube where like there's an agriculture plant and there's like suppose apples and they're coming on this conveyor belt and there's a shifting
Mm,
process and the one that are bad they will fall on the side and then there's not the size enough they're small and only the good apples get to the end. Basically, this world is a conveyor belt and God has put as a system in place and that's how it's gonna be. You just follow along and to the end, basically. We are reached the end.
mashallah. Yeah, subhanallah. I mean, God does not let, God says that He will not, He will not, He will distinguish the believers from the hypocrites, and that's part of God's test. So that makes sense that He has put the system in place. But the system is, I think, if you really think about the system, yeah, it's like so so perfect. Like it's immaculate, because those people that are getting trapped, I mean, it's very uh, uh, it's really perfect because they think that they're following the religion, and they're being righteous and all that, while they're just exposing themselves and incriminating themselves, actually. All these people who followed hadith and created hadith, I mean, they believed that they were very noble, and the things that they were doing, they were loving the prophet and all that, right? And but what we see here is that obviously they were Satan's agents. And obviously, in history we can see that what God didn't allow these people to be successful in this world or in the hereafter. And That's why we see all these people who claim to follow the message that do not have God's support anymore. Like, if you go online, what I mean by that is you see all these pictures of images of people in these countries with war and orphans and oppression and all of that, right? And these people are like complaining for freedom and just for basic human rights. And they all claim to follow the message of the truth. And so it clearly shows that if these people were on the right path, that God would definitely support them and grant them victory in this world. It's God's system that He will grant victory to the believers. And I think Another thing I wanted to mention was we talked about how God provides, for people in God's kingdom, and how He provides for people in Satan's kingdom. But the thing is, um, that people who are not in God's kingdom, I mean, um, God obviously provides for them, but the thing is, it really the I mean, that actually, mashallah, is a good point, that it helps us reflect on God's kingdom and Satan's kingdom. You know what you said about God giving them a chance to. I mean, God is the one who provided for them, and you gave the example of the person in the factory. You know that I mean, the factory, the company saying that they'll provide all the food, right? But then it's up to the employees, or the people in the factory, to to earn earn their living. And so people obviously who will fall under God's kingdom will be the ones that will have everything, run perfectly for them, because they will not be part of I mean, they will not be part of Satan's kingdom. They will be part of God's, perfect system, and God's kingdom is perfect with no problems, right? So they will not have any sort of problems, and everything will work out perfectly for them. But for the people who are in Satan's kingdom, obviously, because Satan's not able to, please his subjects and control everything at one time, and he's not omnipresent or omnipotent, even though sometimes he will try to please, all his subjects, but he just can't, because there's so many people, and he only has a limited number of you know uh, abilities that he can do. This really shows us his failure um, as a god, and I mean, Satan obviously knows that now, but it's just, I think as the time goes by, we will see that distinction become more and more clearer, with and we see that, like, comparing the world, let's say, like in the 60s or the 70s, to how it became worse in the 90s, and in the 2000s, how, like, the amount of catastrophes on earth, whether it's war or poverty or things like that, just keep on, like, multiplying, and you see all these problems that occur, shows that how Satan's not able to control anything, and he's just completely, like, helpless, because these people that fall out of God's kingdom, most of them, obviously, they're just basically left on their own. They're in complete utter chaos, right? And so when you look at the world and you turn on the TV and you see all this chaos outside, you know that this is happening as a result of people being in Satan's kingdom, and it just keeps on getting worse for Satan.
Also, I have some questions. Uh, is my voice okay?
Yeah.
All right. So you're talking about freedom, like leaving the unfree country or place to freedom. So I'm going to ask about the the social circle that you have, that you're not free to express yourself or be yourself or express your belief. And you think, is it obligatory to leave, like immediately leave the community when you find the like minimum chances? I mean, like if you like think that you can survive if you leave, you have to leave. Is that what are you thinking about it? I mean, what are your
Mm.
opinions?
Sure, that's a good question. Does anyone want to answer?
I'm going to talk a little bit about it. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The number thing we read in Quran is that the important thing is to believe in God and establish contact prayer and give charity, and for just be spirit, righteousness, and forbid evil. So these are the main important. But if somebody is not letting you do the contact prayer, and the, you have no place to worship, or they don't let you charity and fasting and the main duties, so they're physically not letting you do, so you have to immigrate from that area. You can try to stand up for your right. This is my understanding. If you are not successful, then you have to migrate, because there's one verse where the angels are asking people in the heaven that was God's paraphrasing, is not spacious for you to migrate. And if you immigrate, God will open doors for you, many many more doors that you should not have fear of what I'm gonna do or this and that. But hardly in this time that anywhere you live, I don't think that somebody can resist, prohibit you from worshiping, unless you live in a very communist type of country where it's completely illegal to even practice worship. Then you have to immigrate. But as far as giving the message, I think we have a very beautiful platforms nowadays to you can do much more than even talking to people. You can have channels on online and many many other online sources where you can reach a lot more people, and for forbidding evil and giving the message to many many communities. If you live in a community, if they don't even want to talk about it, that's just a small community. You can go out beyond and reach other people. I don't think that I'm not sure that if you have to immigrate in that sense, unless as long they're not letting you do the contact prayer, because that is critically important. And if you're outside in the market, and you have to do your salat, and you go somewhere in the corner somewhere, and people are throwing rock at you, I mean, these are some serious situations where I guess where you can't even practice your contact prayers. And I get less Solomon to handle from here.
Well, yeah, mashallah, thank you. I want to say that, if you look at the verse 29:56, it's a commandment. Uh, it says, immigrate in the cause of God. I'm sure you it says, "O my servants who believe, my earth is spacious, so worship me." Right? And so the subtitle says, immigrate in the cause of God. So, I think if you see yourself in a position where you feel oppressed, that you're not able to practice your religion freely, and you have the ability to immigrate in the cause of God, I mean, that immigrating in the cause of God, based on the verses we read, there are higher ranks for people that do that, right? So, it's up to you. You want to ask yourself, do you want to live in a state where you're oppressed and not able to express yourself, and you might even end up wronging your souls? Or you want to be one of those people where you are one of the people who are in the higher ranks, that are considered one of the strivers. And also another verse to consider is also uh, uh, Surah 497. It says, um, apathy condemned, 497. Those whose lives are terminated by the angels, those those whose lives are terminated by the angels while in a state of wronging their souls, the angels will ask them, what was the matter with you? They will say, we were oppressed on earth. They will say, was God's earth not spacious enough for you to immigrate therein? For those, the final abode is hell and a miserable destiny. Right? So it's also, and it says, exempted are the weak men, women, and children who do not possess the strength nor the means to find a way out. These may be pardoned by God. God is pardoner, forgiver. Anyone who immigrates in the cause of God will find on earth great bounties and richness. Anyone who gives up his home, immigrating to God and his messenger, then that catches up with him. His recompense is reserved with God. God is forgiver, most merciful. So I think it is pretty clear from these verses that if you have the ability and the means, then you have to do it as a part of God's commandments, and not being apathetic, and being one of the strivers. You should do it. That's what I see from the verses.
Very good.
I want to extend the question more. I mean, maybe specify the question more. For example, you are saying that, well, like the first person who said that before Suleiman, uh, that actually the freedom in the Quran is equal to being able to pray and do the religious duties. But isn't this a bit narrow when you think about freedom? I mean, does the Quran say religious freedom or like generally freedom? I mean, freedom is much broader than that. It's not only, I mean, maybe a religion compensates. Religion covers the whole life. I mean, when you say in that sense, when you say that freedom of religion is enough, and then okay, that's enough. But when you say that it's only contact prayers and zakat, and I don't think that it's equals to freedom. I mean, freedom is broader than that. And for example, if you're in, I mean, all right. So this is the first point I wanted to make clear, and the second one is the maybe the immigration isn't only between countries because country the concept of country changes from time to time, like nationalism and some other like ideologies are making the notion of country. But what if it's about society you live in? For example, you are living in a district. Even for example, in Turkey, there are like several districts and several places. And for example, if you're in the Kurdish part of the country and you want to, you feel oppressed. But even if you could pray and give zakat, I mean, you, you feel oppressed and you have to move. And I don't know, maybe it's also obligatory to move if you feel oppressed, like you, because it's actually harming. If you cannot express yourself in a society that you're living, it's harming you physically too.
Hello, Assalamu Alaikum. Can I make a comment?
Yes.
Yeah, if you read, there is a verse about oppression is worse than murder, right? Murder can kill a person one time and be over with, but oppression kills your soul bit by bit every day. If you're oppressed in any situation, whether it is a relationship, a country where no one can practice um, freely their religion, um, and dictatorship and all that. So oppression literally does not allow your soul to grow. God wants your soul to grow. That's how we're going to be able to make it to heaven, if we grow our soul enough where we can commemorate God freely, where you don't have fear that you're going for your obligatory congregation, the Jummah congregation, and then you'll be persecuted, and you could get killed from the fear of that. That's not good for the soul. Soul thrives when it is appreciating God and his blessings, and that's why soul really doesn't thrive when it's sick. People are physically sick, they are in affliction, that's more like, yes, people ask for forgiveness and they're reflecting, but really soul grows. God says, more you thank me, more I give you. That means whenever we appreciate God for all his blessings, those are the moments where soul grows in leaps and bounds. And then God says, more I give you, meaning not just the worldly things, meaning that he nourishes your souls, allows it to grow. So that's the most important part of this life and the test. And if one fears persecution, or they feel they cannot freely practice their religion, they should make every effort to and ask God to help them to be in a place where they can, whether it is another village, another city, community, or a country. That's depends which kind of situation they are in. If there is a dependent son or daughter at their parents' house, they should move out of there if they stop them and oppress them, or if it is a spouse who is oppressing them, to choose spouse or choose God. So these are situations, it can be kind of become tests for us, how much we want God, how much we love God, and how much we want to strive in his cause. And God says, if you're striving in my cause and the death catches you, you're among the high ranking people. Yeah, so it's pretty much written in the Quran that make every effort where you can practice the religion freely, inshallah. And that's about it.
I think also I understood his question. Some of it was that um, maybe he's also talking about if when you tell other people about the religion and they block you, they don't even want to talk to you about it. So does that give enough permission for him to think about moving or not? I mean, if is that what you mean, right?
If you're asking me,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm asking
yeah, similar, but not only about your beliefs. It's about, for example, they may try to, hurt you, like highly bad remarks about you. I mean, things that are like pointing your character and your like everything about you. I mean, this is certain that we are going to face with those things because the Quran also says that you're going to hear very bad things, like this kind of there
you.
was a verse about. But
Right.
if it's very excessive and you cannot tolerate it anymore, and it's harming your body and psychological well-being. Um, Actually, the thing that I'm emphasizing this very much because I'm actually living a long time in such a social circle, but I didn't really like completely leave. So I'm actually thinking maybe I did a very bad choice by staying, but uh, maybe not. I don't know. Sorry for being too personal for such a study.
No, no, mashallah. You should feel this is all about religion. Thanks for sharing.
I mean, I have seen people. I lived in a country where we were fighting based on language and religion, and the people were migrating because of that. Mostly of language, your which which community you're from, and there were fights going on, and the people were moving. If that causes you to move, then certainly, if you're not allowed to practice your religious duties, then that is a very important reason we should move. And if you have the means to move, if you are weak, you cannot work and you're dependent on somebody else or something where there's no money, or you physically cannot move, you're sick or something. For those, God says they have excuse. But if you're capable of, you have a job, and you start. I mean, nowadays it's so easy, you don't even have to move somewhere. You can just apply online and just you will find a job, and they will set you up sometimes, and you have all, and then just move a different area. But as far as your personal attacks on you, like because of they don't like you, you speak a little bit different language than them, is racism or ethnicity, like prejudice, is things like that. These fall under different. It's not under falls under religion category. But I guess if you depend on God and pray to God that, and if you move for that reason, I mean, there's nothing. I don't think there's harm. I mean, you're not disobeying God. It's not that God does not want you to move. God is saying that you must move in case if you cannot do your religious duties. You have to. There's no excuse for missing our contact prayers and giving charity. These are the really ultimate. There's no excuse for. And you can see even in the regular Islamic communities, most people don't even do the contact prayers. they just they value other things so much. So I don't want to go off topic. I just want to stay with what you were asking. That as long as I think it's out of your religion. If you're personal, this is my understanding. They don't like you because of your language or your ethnicity or other reasons. God does not prohibit you that you cannot move, but if they don't let you do your practices. But my one thing is still, I am also a little bit confused on that. That if they don't let you preach your religion, then you cannot. They say that you can practice your worship practices. That's fine, but we don't want you to be going around and talking to anybody about the worshiping God alone. And that is a question in my head too. Does that give you put you in the spot that you have to move or not? Maybe you can shed some light on that, Solomon, or maybe somebody else.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think that, preaching your religion is part of practicing your religion, right? I mean, God says, you should invite to people, and if you're being stopped from doing that, then you're living in a country that is oppressed, and you're being oppressed in a way by not being able to express yourself, religiously. So you can move. I mean, of course, God, you want to earn credit from God, so if you have the means to do it, then you should do it, of course, because when you're able to do these things, obviously you know that they're good for your soul. First, immigrating is good for your soul, but also the fact that you're going to be able to, preach to people openly and not worry about anything. I mean, this will help you also get more credit because you'll be you'll have more opportunities to do good things in the cause of God. Otherwise, if you're in hiding, obviously a lot of times you'll be discouraged from doing a lot of these things because of your life situation. But once you're in a country where you're able to freely express yourself, then you'll grow to your full potential and uh, you know uh, get more credit.
How about many times you can set up example with your life, um, even though people don't know. Okay, they don't prohibit you, but you can talk
Mm,
to different people and they will listen to you, but they won't take heed. But
well,
I would
the
also
thing is,
huh? Sorry.
yeah,
Go ahead.
I mean, the thing is, like in some of these countries that he's talking about, you can just get killed like pretty silently, you'll just disappear after a while. So,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I didn't think of that. Yeah, of course. Like the country I come from, yeah, you cannot even talk about it at all. Yeah, that situation, maybe if you're able to migrate to a different country, if you have a chance, I guess that'd be a good idea. Sometimes you can even set examples for others. You're a believer, you are righteous, you try as best possible to obey God, and people see you that you only worship God. Your contact prayers are different, uh, and then they see your life. You're happy all the time, and you don't have any financial issues. Uh, and that maybe sets example for other people that this person is just he doesn't have any stress in his life. This person is happy all the time and no financial stress. So maybe you know that might cause the people to think and ponder. Maybe he's doing like how we see in worldly life that somebody's doing good in certain business or something, and this person must be doing good. Maybe we should go in that field. That fields pay more or something. That could be example for others too, I guess, who might want to take heed.
Actually, not migrating is like living in a cage, and it's like it's as harmful as two birds that are really into like have to fly to be healthy. So you have to fly to the health and you're in a cage. So eventually you're gonna die earlier. And people who are under such burden actually uh, has died earlier. I mean, even if they are in free countries, if their social circles, uh, especially in the early ages, it has been uh, maladapted. They are dying earlier mostly. And also, this has, I mean, the things I said has been a little bit out of context. I'm a little distracted because reading so much like you these days, and uh, I'm a mixed thing. Sorry.
Yeah, brother, I totally understand. There's some part of the world I didn't think of that aspect. It's really hard. Um, I feel a lot of Western countries have a lot of freedom, religious freedom, speech, and that aspect. uh, This is very difficult in some part of the world. I can understand. I know some people in Pakistan that they just they cannot speak at all. Even when they do contact prayer, they don't want to be in front of anybody in open. It makes it very hard, and it's not easy to just pack up your whole business and just move out.
Yeah, but if we have make an intention, ask God to help us, God will help us, inshallah.
Yeah, exactly. Also, that verse I just read, it says anyone who immigrates in the cause of God will found on earth riches, will find on earth great bounties and riches. You know. So, and then obviously, your true recompense is reserved at God in the hereafter as well. So God is the one who provides for us. And so if we have a situation where we need to immigrate in God's cause, it's upon God to ensure, our well-being. And if we do lead a righteous life, I mean, He'll provide for us, wherever we might be. So I think that should never like stop anyone from wanting to immigrate. They should trust in God, and if they have the means, God will provide for them. If they're sincere, they will get God's support eventually.
And Masha, this surah is so awesome in this aspect. As you did in the last Quran study, I think. Surah verse 15. Yeah, it's an open challenge to anyone. If you think God, will not support you, really, Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Happiness now and forever. If anyone thinks that God cannot support him in this life and in the hereafter, let him turn completely to his creator in heaven and serve his dependence on anyone else. You will then see that this plan eliminates anything that bothers him. So this is an open challenge for anybody who's like open challenge. Anyone God is inviting that try this. You have tried everything else. Try this. And as we did this cross study, that God is telling God defends the believer over and over. God is telling us that God will defend you. God is on your side. You in God's party. No matter what happened, I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm with you. Again, if you die in the cause, you have a best place ready for you in heaven. I mean, the whole topic of this surah is just total dependence on God. God is teaching, and the surah name is Hajj, which is where you migrate. And if you put all these things in the picture, it paints a very beautiful picture where God is inviting us to have full trust in God, depend only on God. And if you have problem with your job or anything happening to you, go to God. Tell God, I mean, depend on God. Don't have any worries. Because if you really putting yourself depending on God, then nothing should bother you. You lost your job. Anything is happening is maybe a test from God, that God is testing you, and you just make your heart open to God and not have any doubts in you. As we were reading today too, that's harbor doubts. You know, things will happen. Doubts will come in our heart, and you just, I mean, a while ago, or the company that I worked for was going through a very tough time, and even it came to a point we thought that they're gonna file bankruptcy, and then your heart sometimes will feel like you have invested so much in the money in the company and you're going to lose. But so these thoughts will spark in your heart. You have to come above and defend it, and you said whatever happens, uh you know, God is running everything, and if it is, it is, you know. But if you harbor doubts, then, and mashallah, things start getting better, and we were coming around it in the Christmas time. And so we just need to depend on God. I mean, nobody's perfect. You just sometime no matter, like, suppose example of anger, you control your anger, but sometimes you're driving or something, somebody does something to you, and all of a sudden you feel a little spark in your heart. That causes, like, irritation. A spark is like, it will ignite, like, those, how the car engine works. There's a gasoline, and then it is compressed so much, and all the spark happens, and then it bursts. So our body is the same way. There's a spark is gonna ignite in your heart, that why this happened, and you can choose to let it ignite your fire, or you can just suppress it in the beginning stage, because when the fire is small you can control it, but when it's become big, it's hard to control. So at the ignition point, you just stop the anger in your heart, that spark, you just ignore. You say, no, I am not going to let this make me angry, because I trust in God. Everything is running by God, and you control it. And over time, it will become such a strong habit that nothing will bother you at all. You will become so expert in controlling it, and that's basically God's system. Is you just fully depend on God. The worst thing is, I hate. I mean, the worst thing that makes me sad is that the verse 22:15, on the day of resurrection, many people has not tried that verse on their life. This challenge, nobody, there's a, remember you call ice bucket challenge, and there's some other challenges, and people try it, and this is a challenge from God. The sad thing will be somebody who has not tried this challenge. This would be the saddest thing, that you didn't even try that. Like, there was an option, you didn't even go there. uh and like in your workplaces, you have problems, and then the bosses come to me and I'll fix your problem. And
You tried the
okay,
ice bucket challenge?
yeah, I remember the ice bucket challenge.
You tried it?
No, I didn't try it, man. I didn't try it. But this is a challenge from God. It would be sad thing if we didn't even try it. Inshallah.
Yeah, I think Turkey is definitely one of those countries where, um, like, if I was living in a country like that, I would probably immigrate at some point. I mean, I know it's like it's it keeps getting, because it keeps getting more and more extrematized as time passes. So like if you find yourself in a situation where you think it's becoming difficult for you to express yourself, like, if you're in a country, for example, where you fear for your life if you have a Quran study, then that's a good sign that this country is probably not a good place for you to be in. uh, if you want to practice your religion freely. Part of being able to practice your religion freely is to be able to force yourself to be with the submitters, go to Quran studies, have Friday prayers and things like that. And if you're in a country where, if they find out, you have a Friday prayer and you pray differently, you're gonna get in trouble. You're gonna get attacked physically or something like that, yeah, then it's a good case for you to immigrate. It's my 2 cents.
I'm even reluctant in showing my face on the pen actually because
Right.
I really want. I mean, I want to open the video option, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
Also, even for the Friday prayer, there was a friend of mine when I was like in between Edipixel's community and the submitter community. I mean, I was trying to decide, and he was like me, and he was like accepting all the appendices, whatever. And then we decided to have a Friday prayer together. And even my family didn't allow me because they didn't let my friend to come into our house, and also they
Mm-hmm.
didn't let us to pray in their house, and it was like so we didn't pray at the end.
Yeah, there was a sister. She was in a situation where the house where she was living, they will not even let her practice, and she was doing the contact prayer in the bathroom because they will not allow in her house, and she has no means to move. But God had opened pathway for her, and she was migrated to another country. Mashallah.
Masha Allah. I hope I will be able to. Okay. Also, you said the praying in the toilets, and actually the thing is, now there are no masjids that are really suitable for praying here, and actually the thing is, I'm mostly doing it like when I walk or sit, or I mean, I'm going to the mosques and taking wudu and going out and just just like mentally praying, you know. So yeah, I hope it's okay uh, because there is no other way. Yeah,
What do you mean by mental?
Mentally, yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, yeah, it's not like yoga or something. Like it's just you're just reading the verses and like everything you normally say in a
Mhm.
normal prayer, but not doing the moves.
Why don't you, I mean, do it in a corner somewhere where there's nobody, just find a private spot somewhere where nobody's.
Anywhere
Yeah,
in your own, you can do it in your
yeah,
own bed,
yeah,
like lock the door inside and do it.
yeah.
No, this is when I'm outside. You know.
Oh, when
Oh, okay.
inside, yeah.
Yeah. But even if you're off outside, like you could go to like a deserted area and just,
Yeah.
where there's no one and just do your prayer.
'Cause I believe Turkey
Yeah.
is an Islamic country, so
Yeah, if they
you should
see
be
you from
able
a
to.
distance, they won't be able to tell how you're praying or.
Your units will be the same, right? Some people do more, but some people do exactly four as well, or three or two. So you shouldn't miss your prayer, God willing, because if you don't do the moves and don't say it in a moderate tone, the salat would not be basically, you won't be able to make the contact.
I mean, if you were absolutely forced, just that was the only way, then yeah, that would be okay because God says in certain situations you may pray by sitting, standing, or lying down, right? But the thing is, if you have opportunities, like one time it happened to me, like I was, like this was around like, during I think like around like when you know, closer to I mean, 9/11 times, like, well, I was in a spot where like I was in like a military, like Air Force or Navy. It was Navy, I think, naval base or something. And like I couldn't find any place to go and pray. And I remember one time I was just standing there and I just prayed while I was standing there. But the thing is, like, if you are like outside and walking freely in a situation like that, I mean, I think you should just be able to just go to a private, secluded area. I mean, it might take you 5 minutes to find a spot, but if you're not like literally really forced, then you shouldn't do that. I think.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't feel comfortable doing it, so
Yeah,
I thought maybe it's possible.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but maybe I should force myself and try several
hmm
times. And yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, like one time, like a lot of times I would do it in a plane because like you're in a small plane, you can't move. There's no place for you to go stand up and do your salat. You would just pray while you're in the plane. I mean, you can't park the plane somewhere and pray, right? So you just do it there. But those are the kind of situations where you can just pray wherever.
Yeah, if
You
you
tell
get
the pilot, can you land the plane? Let me
To
do
the
the.
salat.
mm, yeah, Solomon, you'll be in
Just
big
park southeast.
big trouble. You're running towards the pilot and like land the plane. Fly for slow. Oh, what? Oh my God.
You,
Imagine the alert at that time. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
One time I was in the plane. I was working in Washington, D.C., and we were going back from D.C., and then it was time for my sunset prayer. So the like before the plane took off, like the air hostess kept coming and telling me that I have to turn off my computer, and I was using the internet to do some work. So and I was trying to save my work and everything, so I was like in a hurry. So I didn't listen to her. I kept working, and finally I closed the computer, and then it was time for my sunset prayer. So I did my sunset prayer. There was a girl sitting next to me, and then started listening to a song. There's in-flight entertainment. So I was listening to a song, and then I see look right next to me, and the girl next to me, she's freaking out. Because the because the song I was listening to is called "Burning in the Skies," and she starts freaking out. And I'm like, "What?"
No.
She's like, "Why are you listening to this song?" I'm like, "Well, because I like Linkin Park." And and
oh,
and she's like, "But you were doing your thing before that," and the air hostess kept coming
Oh,
and telling you, and I started looking at her with so much disgust. And I even almost did it on purpose to make her feel guilty. But because the end she was like, "Oh, okay," I just told her to visit the website and everything. I was like, maybe out of guilt she'll go and read more about submission.
oh my gosh.
when I
Yeah,
was
Solomon.
go
Mm-hmm.
ahead, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, no, go ahead. It's okay. Please.
No, no. And when I was a regular Sunni Muslim, whenever I do contact for outside, I find a quiet space and hope nobody, like regular non-Muslim people, would see me. But after I become submitter, now when I do the contact prayer outside, I hope no regular Muslim would see me. I don't care
Right.
about the regular people anymore. I just hope the regular Sunni Muslim people won't see me.
Mm.
yeah. Actually, I have a similar concern because when you like pray outside, like not in a mosque, but on the street or some like narrow street, whatever. If a Sunni
Mm,
Muslim see you, they will ask why you are not doing this in a mosque. So
mm,
because there are lots of mosques in Istanbul and Turkey, and like everywhere is mosque. So if you do it on the street, it's actually a little bit suspicious. I mean, you have to expect. I mean, maybe it's a chance to tell about submission to people, but also it's a little bit uncomfortable. Uh, yeah,
Yeah, you have to be careful and
Yeah.
use your sixth sense to where you should be, you shouldn't be,
hmm
right? Their safety is important. Even God has
hmm
said that we can shorten if
hmm
we fear the danger. That
Yeah.
which people another thing traditional Muslims have taken so out of context. They think when you're traveling, you can cut if it's 4 units, you make it 2 units, for no reason. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
another topic.
Yeah, I mean, if I would say, like, if someone comes and tells you, so you can say, I don't have time or something. Like, nobody's going to, like, put you on a trial or anything.
Make God
yeah,
your God and nobody can mess with you. A place like US, we sometimes pray in the parking lots, or when I'm driving. You do those kind of pit stops, where you stop and they have
Hmm.
some waiting room, and in the
Yeah.
corner you do. The other day at the airport, I was in US,
Mm.
so it was I had my flight connection. In between, I went to the bathroom. I had my one foot in the sink. Was-
Mhm.
and then this white woman standing beside me, watching me. And when I was done, then I wiped with the paper nicely, putting my shoes on. And then she goes, "Great idea. It must be very relaxing during this journey." She started to do that right in front of my eyes. So I was like, wow, sometimes some people get disgusted, like, what are you
Mhm.
doing? I don't even try to look at them. I'm none of your business. I wiped the place, the sink and whatnot. But she was impressed. Like, she thought this must be some kind of remedy for sore feet or
Mhm.
anyway. Yeah. When God is with you, he controls people's hearts and everything. Just put all the trust in God. When you have to do your salat, you will find a place, inshallah. Just make it a priority that you never miss it, inshallah. Whether it's you're at university, school, workplace, there will always be a place where you would be able to. I never ever had the problem so far in my life, alhamdulillah.
Yeah, in the US it's really good. I mean, you can pray anywhere, pretty much. Yeah, thank God. Like people mind their own business. Like nobody comes and bothers you or anything.
Yeah, that's true.
But this will
I,
be
I
a
have.
promised land.
Mashallah.
God's prosperity is in this country, Praise God.
Yeah, the only time somebody I've been praying here in the States for a long time outside, and the only time one lady said, "Jesus Christ," I say, "Yeah, Jesus Christ for you and for me, my God."
Oh,
That's about it.
yeah.
Now, yeah, people
Yeah,
don't
it also
mind at all
depends where
here.
you do your
Absolutely.
salat, like um yeah, I mean you're in Texas.
Yeah, even though here is people are very friendly. I've never
Yeah,
seen
yeah.
that experience.
You're
Yeah.
in Houston, right? That's very much lots of Muslims there, right? Austin or Houston?
In Houston, yeah, there's a lot of
Yeah.
Desi Muslims, but I'm in northern Texas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Once
I'm not.
Solomon, it was your app. Well, now that is on mute forever. I was in Uber, then suddenly Allah Akbar. The driver had a shiver. Suddenly he turned, looked at me because it was
Oh,
so out of nowhere. Allah
oh,
Akbar. Like since that day, I'm like, oh, I don't,
oh.
I don't mean to startle people.
Oh,
Yeah, it's on mute.
well. Yeah,
I just let them talk.
one time I was praying outside the gym and I heard you say, "Is that the yoga man?"
Oh yeah,
Yes.
I remember.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
Somebody said to you, "Is that the yoga man?"
No, they
Oh,
was talking to another person, because I was near the yoga place where they do yoga.
mhm.
So she's like, "Oh, is that the yoga man?"
They must be thinking he loves yoga. He just lives
Yeah, it was in the
yoga to
parking
yoga
lot.
every day.
We did
Yoga,
yoga in the parking lot.
yoga
Oh
in the
my
car, yoga in the bathroom, yoga in the kitchen.
Yeah, usually I never hear people say anything.
Mm.
People don't I don't
thank
yeah,
God.
thank God, yeah.
Same in
Yeah.
Canada.
Yeah.
So much calm and relaxed.
Yeah, and if I like if sometimes like I see like, people pass by me or something and they don't realize I was praying and they might cross really close to me or something, they actually would apologize and oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, me and my wife went to a kid's birthday party, and it was in a trampoline park. So there people are jumping around, and there was music going on, and it was time for pray. And so I just told, let's go. And then we just got on the second floor in the corner and we just started pray. And we were just standing side by side. And there was all the regular people that, they invited us, all Muslim people, regular. So I don't think anybody prayed except just maybe one person. But they came and told us that you did it wrong. You stand right next to each other, And I'm like, me and my wife thinking, like, you guys didn't even pray, but somebody who's praying, you're correcting them.
So that happened to
That's
me the
odd.
other day,
Oh,
at
really?
the school. Yeah, I was praying and I see when I was prostrating, I see, somebody is behind me standing in a black robe. Like something, I see something weird. So I, started to do my prayer faster. Like, who's this person quietly standing behind me? When I turned around, there was this woman wearing a black burqa and a hijab, like a Somali woman or something, and older person. And she was looking at me with so much disgust. And she said, "Sister, you're not covering your head." And I said, I don't have to. Oh, yes, you have to. Oh, now she's standing. She's not even doing her prayer or anything, but she's there to correct me. And she said, no, no, no. I said, no, nowhere in Quran it says this is what you have to do. Or Muslims have to cover their heads, periods, women, And then she goes, oh, I show you in Quran. I said, I don't know what translation she has. Like, please. I said, you know what? I don't have to listen to you. Just she was standing like a rock behind me the whole time watching. The audacity people have.
My opinion is she hates her headscarf so much, and that's why she wants you to wear it too, because
Yeah,
she's very envious,
this headscarf
envious
business
to
is.
see. Yeah, she's very envious to see your courage to act like that, and she just wants you to obey like her, like, and live a miserable life like that.
Yeah. It's like God hates your hair. You're in front of God 24 hours. God, like God created your hair, but when you go in front of God or making contact, he doesn't like to see your hair. Like, I don't even understand the myth behind it. I just cannot rationalize it.
Yeah, it's not rational; it's emotional, and also with the same arguments, like Edip Yüksel was talking in a Turkish TV channel, and he was saying that uh, we can pray naked. So if there was no one around, and we can pray naked, and because God already knows, and with the same argument, like you said, the hair is God knows about it, so we don't need to cover it. So he said we can pray naked with the same argument, and it was like in newspapers, in magazines, like it was a very controversial and
Mm-hmm.
so popular topic at the time.
Yeah, it all these rituals came from different tribes and Jews, probably. Who knows from what time? It has nothing to do with Islam. It's just some culture would do it and some wouldn't. Anyway,
If no one has question, I have a question. All right, I'm
go ahead.
going. So I was thinking about, like, for last phase, I was thinking about the Quranic orders, like, and the fourth commandment in the 10 commandments of Moses. The fourth one is honor your parents, and in Quran actually there is also verse about it, like treat amicably and honor your parents, and it's also regarding your relatives. And but I was reading some books from Alice Miller. She was a psychoanalyst before, and then recreated some psychoanalytic theories, and very critical of traditional one. And uh, actually, she was very critical of the fourth commandment, and I was trying to make. I mean, I thought that she's right in so many issues, and I thought maybe we misunderstand the fourth commandment. Like it says, honor your parents, all right, but think about you're in the Muhammad's time and you're fighting in a war with your parents because they're disbelievers, but and you're killing them, and that means actually that doesn't mean that you are dishonoring your parents. Actually, it just means you're showing a defense, like necessary defense mechanism, and maybe even killing your parents may not uh, be shown as uh, not honoring. And actually, it's an interesting idea for me. What do you guys think?
In the situation of war,
Yeah, in a situation of war or like something that you have to defend yourself, like even verbally.
only against aggression, if they aggress and a person threaten, is the matter of one saving your own life, and they have taken the side of the devil. What choice a person will have, right? That's what I think. Then you will defend yourself.
But the idea is you are killing for example, you are killing your father in a war, and at the same time you are honoring your parent because you cannot transgress one commandment by applying the other commandment. It would be it would be contradiction. So I mean, yeah, I think it's interesting. I don't know.
But the verse says, honor your parents, and unless they, force you to idol worship, what is the verse says there? Then disregard them. But I think in war situations are unique. Um, let's say there is an army of believers fighting an army of disbelievers, and you are on one side and your parents are on the other side. Then they are just people, right? What would you do? They have chosen to fight against the believers, to kill them ruthlessly. Um, well, you know, what would you do?
Then think about a scenario in civilization times, and uh, like you have a house, and your parents came to your house, and he wants to burn it, and you are defending it, and uh, and he's trying to kill you, and so if you don't kill him, you're going to get killed. So in this situation, should we do what Abel did to Cain, or should we kill the parent? Too violent, sorry.
No, the if that God has permitted aggression only against the aggression, right? To save yourself, especially if it is religion or any other scenario. If, let's say, a parent is trying to kill, a parent has gone crazy, or a drunk father is about to kill his son or daughter or anybody, what would you do if you only chance you have is to survive, is to either that you die or that person dies? What would you do? So same thing applies in that case, right?
I feel like I mean, there are various situations and like so many variables, and I think it depends specifically in specific cases. I mean, the correct action changes from case to case, and there is no really concrete principle.
Of course. Yep. Because at that moment, all, like, when Noah asked God to save his son, what did God say? He's not your son, Noah. The believers have one family. And if there is a disbeliever and they're fighting against God and his messenger, then that's not your family anymore. That's where the line is drawn. But
So if
if they don't fight with you because of God, and they don't they don't evict you from home, they're amicable with you, even having different views, then you treat them amicably.
but your first argument was if
Um,
they are if they are disbelievers, they are not your family, and if so, you say our biological family is if they are disbelievers and they are not our family. So honoring your parents, the fourth commandment in the Moses ten commandment is actually just for believer
No,
parents.
it is still for disbelieving parents too, as long as they don't hurt you, they don't band together, they don't evict you because of religion, you know, they're not fighting with you, they're not, being cruel to you. You will still respect them as parents because they raised you from infancy. But if they actively fight you because of God or messenger, um, then you just disregard them, and then whatever, if they're constantly doing it, you shouldn't be probably living in such environment. I don't know. Depends on every case, right? What is the situation?
um, I wanted to say that if you guys are okay, we can end the stream now.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Inshallah.
and then our next week teacher is we just need I I don't know who can teach next
I will
Wednesday.
teach next one.
Okay,
I,
good, mashallah.
yeah, inshallah.
Okay, perfect. So, thank you all for joining us on YouTube. Our next study is going to be on Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. Pacific time, and God willing, we'll see you guys then. Assalamu alaikum.